climate change. All right, so we've got to come together and do that, and create decent paying jobs for our people. So my goal as president is to put an end to kind of the distance and hatred that Trump is fomenting right now for cheap political purposes, to bring people together around our common identity as Americans, to try to create a world where we can resolve international conflict through negotiations rather through wars, where we're spending less money on weapons of mass destruction or more money on addressing human needs. So that's kind of my overview of where we are at, and I know all of you in your own ways have been standing up for your particular communities, and I thank you very much for doing that. I think sometimes you have not gotten the kind of justice for the hearings that you deserve, so I'm really delighted, Jane and I are delighted to be here today to hear what's on your minds. Mostly on any questions that you think I can like to throw out, do my best to answer. So that's my speech, and I'm sticking to it. 1 million people who are undocumented in America today. And right now, in this particular city, but all over this country, you have young children who are living under unbelievable anxiety. Can you imagine a kid going to school today and not knowing whether his mom or dad will be there when he gets home from school? So the first thing that we have got to do is to make it clear, and this is what the American people want, and I think we can do this with good leadership, is instead of demonizing people, instead of creating all kinds of fear in the hearts of people, what we do is we move forward to comprehensive immigration reform and a path towards citizenship for the 11 million people who are undocumented right now. Okay, and I think just saying that, look, that we're not going to demonize, that you're not a criminal because you're working every day trying to raise your families here in the United States. That's number one. And number two, we immediately restore the DACA, we restore and expand the DACA protections for the 1.8 million people eligible for that program, and expand it. And number three, we have a humane policy at the border. And what that policy understands, that if a mother travels 1,000 miles by foot with a child, that mother is not a criminal, but a desperate person trying to flee terrible violence in Honduras or Guatemala or wherever. And then we come up with a humane and sensible asylum program which expedites the process. We don't have enough judges there, administrative staff, and we do that. We do not yank babies from the arms of their mothers. We do not put children in cages. That's in general what I think. Yes, no community has its issues. The African American community has its issues. And this group has this issue. Everybody has their issues. But I think this is what we say to our friends and brothers and sisters in the Latino community. Number one, we are more than aware that immigration is a very, very important issue, and we are more than aware. I just talked to some teachers the other day, and it left a deep impression, painful impression, in that you have so many children, who are dealing with the anxiety that tomorrow their entire family may be separated. How would you like that? You wake up in the morning and you don't know if your family is going to be whole in the evening. All right? And we have got to deal with that. That is not only primarily for the Latino community, but for other minority communities as well, whether undocumented people. But second of all, what I will tell you, Francisco, if you go out and you poll the Latino community, what issue is maybe even more significant, that is healthcare. Because like the African American community, the Latino community is significantly underinsured. There are people who are working for low wages, and they cannot afford the health care that they need. So while a Medicare for all single payer program is going to benefit every person in this country, it will disproportionately benefit the Latino community and the African American community and lower income people in general. Thirdly, I am very proud that 4 years ago when I came here to California, my campaign, we started off way behind. We ended up with 46% of the vote. We lost, but we did pretty well. I came here to California and I said, you know, if you work 40 hours a week, you should not be living in poverty. We got to raise the minimum wage to a living wage, $15 an hour. And as some of you may recall, that idea 4 years ago was thought to be pretty radical and extreme. You know, Bernie wants to more than double the federal minimum wage, which is now $7.25 an hour. Well, 4 years have come and gone. 7 states, including California, are on the path to raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour. As you know, last week, 2 weeks ago, the U.S. House of Representatives voted to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. So fighting to make sure that everybody in this country who works 40 hours a week does not live in poverty is a national issue for everybody. It is especially important to the Latino community and the African American community, where a very significant disproportion of people are working at low wage jobs. And thirdly, like again, the African American community, the Latino community is hit hard by a racist and broken criminal justice system. And again, I am proud to tell you, this is how change comes about. 4 years ago, I came here and I said, you know, maybe we should end the war on drugs because it is destroying so many lives throughout this country. And, you know, again, that idea was seen to be pretty radical at the time. Well, since then, many states, including California, have moved forward to either decriminalize or legalize marijuana. I gotta tell you, it is a little bit mind-blowing. This is how the world works. You're traveling around here in LA, as we have been this morning, and seeing these big signs of corporations telling you to go out and buy their marijuana. Can you imagine that? And 4 years ago, people were being thrown in jail, and corporations today are advertising how great their marijuana is. What a change has taken place. So, criminal justice, decent wages, healthcare, immigration reform. Those are, I think, many of the issues. Yes, ma'am.
In the past, you've called Central American countries failing countries.
I don't know that well. I think their economies are failing, that's for sure.
Do you think in any way, or would you advocate for restricting immigration from these countries?
No. I am not Donald Trump, and I'm not a racist, and I'm not anti-Muslim, and I'm not anti-Latino. So I'm not quite sure where that question came from. We want a immigration system which is non-racist and which is fair. But I'll tell you what else we do want. We have to ask ourselves why a mother will travel 1,000 miles on foot with her child to go to a country where she doesn't know, she can't speak the language. Why is that? And it is because those economies are in fact failing. It is because drug cartels have very significant influence and violence is rampant. And I think the President of the United States should sit down and work with the governments of Honduras and Guatemala and El Salvador and Mexico and countries in the hemisphere. We have a hemispheric problem. The United States happens to be the wealthiest and most powerful of all countries. We're going to work with Canada as well. How do we address the issue of severe poverty and violence in some countries? And that is what I would certainly do.
Americans are making $5.04. How do you plan to address this racial disparity?
Enormously important question. And the way I look at it, your first name, I'm sorry, is?
Lauren.
Lauren. The way I look at it, Lauren, is that we have massive levels of income and wealth inequality in general in the country. Okay, you got 3 people owning more wealth than the bottom half of America. And then in the midst of that massive inequality and disparity, you have racial disparity, as you just indicated, in every index. Whether it is wealth, where the gap is, I think, 10 to 1 between a white family and a black family. Whether it is income, where the gap is also enormous. Where there is educational opportunity, black kids are going to leave school much more deeply in debt than white kids. Whether it is healthcare, where you have an infant mortality rate in the black community 2.5 times that of the white community, where insanely, unbelievably, we have a maternal death rate in the black community, which is on third world levels, all right? So what we have to deal with overall disparity and then racial disparity, so what does that mean? How do you deal with that? It means, and Congressman Jim Clyburn of South Carolina had a good idea, which I think needs some work, but is the basis for a right approach. And it says that we use our federal resources to focus on distressed communities in this country, which will be significantly African American and Latino, not always. You got a lot of white distressed communities as well. But we focus on those communities. What does it mean? It means we build the housing that people need in those communities. Right now, as I'm sure you're aware, people are paying 40–50% of their incomes in housing. We got to deal with gentrification, which is driving minorities out of communities in which they have lived in their entire lives. You gotta make sure that there are not only healthcare for all, but you got disparities. If you had healthcare for all tomorrow, you would still have disparities. All right, we don't have enough black doctors, we don't have enough black nurses, we don't have enough young people graduating medical school who are African American. We have to address that as well. Then you got a whole criminal justice system, for God's sakes, which is just, you know, totally broken and racist. Those are some of the areas that we gotta focus on.
File resolutions, U.S. lawmakers have come out to file resolutions against what's going on in the Philippines with the drug war. And if you are elected, you will have to put up with President Duterte for 3 years, because our terms run 6 years, so. Yeah, how would you handle that relationship?
Look, one of my deep concerns about President Trump is not only his efforts to undermine democracy in the United States through voter suppression and his attacks on the media, calling the media enemies of the people with fake news, his attacks on the judiciary, but also he finds himself, as you may have noticed, very comfortable with authoritarian, undemocratic leaders all over the world. And in my view, what the United States has historically been about, at its best, has been a beacon of hope for poor people and struggling people all over the world, including people who live in oppressive and undemocratic societies. So, what I will do as President of the United States is call out authoritarianism and dictatorships wherever it exists. That doesn't mean to say you go to war. It doesn't mean to say you don't negotiate, you do. But our goal and our vision for the future is human rights and democracy, not authoritarianism. So whether it's Duterte in the Philippines, or Kim Jong-un in North Korea, or the Chinese leadership, or Putin in Russia, whatever it may be, we're going to try to do our best to have countries come together to fight climate change. We're going to do our best to try to solve global conflicts without violence. That's what we've got to do. But on the other hand, the United States must continue to be a beacon of hope for democracy in a world which, by the way, is becoming more and more authoritarian. Okay, maybe 1 or 2 more questions.
Thank you for watching Muse. If you like what you saw, make sure to subscribe to our channel and click on all the other videos you see to watch more of our content.